Well, good day, folks. It's the weekend. Woohoo. Hope you're all having a great weekend and you have some awesome plans. For today, I thought we'd have a look at another one of my light backpacking cook kits. I showed one in the past. It was a larger one. This one's a little more compact. And here it is. So the enclosure you're looking at is made from pipe insulation. And simply I cut a circle to the size I needed, then took a strip, wrapped it around, and secured everything with that metallic tape. So it provides an enclosure. Normally I would have this in a drawstring stuff sack and kind of holds everything together, gives a little shock protection. But this also has another purpose, which we'll get to. So we take the top off. There's my pot. Lift up the lid. And inside we have just a little sponge and kind of Brillo pad for cleaning your pots when you're done. And we have here 3 alcohol stove options. There's your fire, which you'll need. Keep calm and flick on. So we have 3 stoves here, just 3 different types and sizes. This one's made from a tin soda can, one of the smaller ones. You can see it has an inner wall that I put in it. And the purpose of that, how these stoves work, is you have an outer wall and an inner wall. And that the space between the 2 walls allows the gas to come up and then come out the vents. So you'll see here there's little spaces in the bottom that allows the gas and the alcohol to penetrate those 2 walls. Here's a smaller one made from an aluminum, I think it was a fragrance can. Just took the top, inverted it, dropped it down inside, and again you can see where those cutouts are to allow the alcohol and the gas to collect in between the 2 layers, and then your outputs. The one we'll use for today, I think, is this one here. It's a bit larger. That's made from an aluminum beer bottle, I believe. So again, just cut off the top, inverted it, cut the notches out, and then your vent holes. So naturally, being an alcohol stove, you need some form of alcohol. This is ethanol. It is grain-based alcohol. You can also use methanol, which is wood-based alcohol. Methanol you can commonly find in the paint section of your hardware store. It's used to clean brushes and whatnot. It is the more dangerous of the 2 because being wood-based, it is the alcohol that can make you go blind if you drink it. This is ethanol. You would see this commonly used with fondue pots. That would be more of a gel-based form, but also those fancy decorative little fireplaces you see that people put on their patios and whatnot. They use ethanol in those. Now you'll notice I have it segmented by ounce. That gives me, for the amount of time it would take to boil water, is about 1 ounce of alcohol. And so that gives me about 3 firings. And always make sure you note on the bottle it's poisonous, it's flammable, and that it's ethanol. We have here just a little base for the stove. Now, in here, we have what will be dual purpose windscreen and kind of something to trap the heat for the stove. And that is all pre-measured out. Works with tabs. You see I have a cutout here that this tab fits down into, and then we fit this one up here. Vent holes all along the bottom to allow air in. And then you have the top half. And we have a slot here and a tab, so we just work that into there, fold it around on the back, and you see we have vent holes at the top. Now, each section has tabs cut into that, and that's to put the two together. So we would simply start here, one tab over the top, like so. Next tab, so, and like so. So one over, one under, over, under, under, and we just work it around like that. Our stove will sit in there, and then our pot. Where did I set my pot? Oh, my pot's still in here. Your pot then opens up and drops down into there and sits flush on the top of your stove. And then the last part is just a folded up piece of aluminum foil that unfolds into a sheet that we can then set on the surface that we're going to cook on. Reason for that, if it's cold temperatures, say the wintertime, problem with these stoves, if you set them on a cold surface, then the cold will suck the heat out of the stove and impact its efficiency. So you need something to insulate the ground. So why don't I get this all set up over on the stump, and we'll give you a demonstration. Okay, so we have the foil spread out as an insulation on our surface. So if this was outside in the winter, you have a cold stump, which would rob the heat from your stove. So we have the insulation down, we have our can lid, our stove sits nicely on there. And now we add some alcohol. And then I can just, as I go, watch as I make it down to my graduation mark. Now, another advantage to the lid here is I can squirt a little bit of alcohol into that, and that will help heat up the outside of the stove. I'm just going to use a ferro rod to light it. Go. Now, one thing you have to be careful with an alcohol stove, it does not burn with a very colorful flame. So if you're in bright light, you may not see the flame. So I know a fella who was in bright light and he lit this up and didn't see the flame. He didn't think it was working, put his hand over it and burnt the palm of his hand pretty bad. So it's going to take a moment for that to blossom. While we wait, we'll add some water to our pot. Now, one thing it doesn't hurt to do is just, as you wait for it to bloom, just allow it to warm your pot up a little bit. Because the pot has cold water in it, and you'll get the same effect as cold ground would rob heat from your stove. A cold pot will rob heat from your stove. You just let it warm up a little bit. There we are, starting to bloom. Now, here's our assembled enclosure, and we'll drop that on. You want to make sure you have it centered. There's our bloom. Now we just set a pot inside. And then set our lid on. So that will take 2 to 5 minutes to boil, depending on the temperature. But you can see you have a nice windscreen around it that is going to prevent the wind from affecting your flame. But also it's going to trap some of the heat inside, which will enhance the heating process. So it will actually come to a boil faster because you're trapping all that heat inside of the enclosure. So I will pause there and wait for that to come to a boil, and then we'll pick up again. And that took all of about 2.5 minutes to come to a full boil. So now I can take that off and we can proceed to the next step. Okay, so everything has come to a boil. When you take your pot away and you're going to deal with your stove and the enclosure, keep in mind they're going to be hot, so wear gloves or have something to grab them with. So now we take our meal. I just got a package of ramen noodles here. You can use freeze-dried meals or emergency kits or anything like that. I like to make my own. I put them in Ziploc bags. I'll use some ramen noodles, some dehydrated vegetables, some dehydrated tuna or something like that. So now, we simply take our contents and we go back to our enclosure and we set everything back down inside here. And then we put our lid back on. So now we have all that heat trapped inside with the insulation. So rather than using extra alcohol to boil our food cooked, we simply brought our water, used enough alcohol to bring our water to a boil. We put our contents in our pot, and then we put everything in the enclosure. And then you wait 5-10 minutes, depending on what you're cooking, and then everything should be done. And we'll give that a few minutes and see how it takes. Alrighty, it's been about 5 minutes, so we'll open up our enclosure. Pardon the steam. And there we have our nicely cooked ramen noodles. This will work great, like I say, with any freeze-dried meals you have in an emergency kit or things you would buy for hiking and whatnot. Like I say, I like to make my own. Just take a Ziploc bag, put some ramen noodles in it, put some dehydrated vegetables, dehydrated tuna or something like that, and spice it up the way you like. Throw those in your pack and meals to go. So I hope you found that entertaining. If you have any questions about how these are built, I'm sure there's a dozen and one videos you could find, but I'll certainly answer any questions in the comments below. And with that, I'm going to go have me some ramen noodles. Hope you're having an awesome weekend. Like I always say, if life's getting you down, you're a little stressed out, go spend some time in the woods. It's just a peaceful, relaxing place to be, and it will melt all your stress away. In case you get hungry, take a cook kit and some ramen noodles with you. Might come in handy. Y'all take care.